everyone and welcome. My name is Gretchen and we're on our Revolution War era farm here at the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown. And as a mid-war farm, we talk a lot about the changes that go on for the free and enslaved people living here during the Revolutionary War. And one of the big changes for them is textile production and their role in textile production. So before the Revolutionary War, 90+% of the fabric is coming to the colonies from England. And England is really the only place we're getting it from, or at least through England. So imagine there's one store in town that you shop at and now that store is closed. So think about all of the ways that you would have to make up for that. And fabric production takes a lot. So sometimes if I'm spinning or if I'm doing some sewing or if I'm sitting at the loom and weaving, people will say, "Oh, are you making clothes?" But there's a lot that goes into that. So if it's wool, if it's a protein fiber like wool, you would have to have sheep or have access to sheep. You would have to tend those sheep. You would have to wait for their wool to grow long enough so that you could shear it, which means cut it. You would have to wash it and dry it, and then you would have to card it. And that's like brushing it out. Then you would have to spin it, and that might be with a drop spindle or a spinning wheel where you maybe get to sit down and use a pedal, or maybe you have to stand up to use the spinning wheel. Then once it's into thread, and you would need thousands and thousands of yards of that thread or that yarn, you would have to then set it up on a loom. Maybe you don't have a loom. Maybe you have no idea how to weave. And so you would have to learn that, or you would have to find someone who does have a loom. And then you would have to set all those yarns up on the loom, and then you would have to weave, and it's going to take you hours and hours of work at that loom to weave enough fabric for what you need. So people in the 18th century typically are wearing 8 to 10 yards of fabric. That's a lot of fabric that you're going to need. Are you just going to leave it sheep colored or plain cotton or linen colored? Maybe you want to put color on it. That's another process. You have to dye it. Then you have to come up with the dye materials. Did you purchase them? Did you grow them? Did you find them in nature? You're going to have to process those, and you're going to have to boil them down and sift all that stuff out and have a nice clear dye pot. And then you're going to have to dye the yarn or dye the fabric. Then you're going to have to dry it, wash it, dry it back out again. You're going to have to cut it into a shape, sew it into an outfit. Maybe you're really good at simple things like aprons, but are you good at making short gowns? Maybe not. So that might be another skill you have to learn. And not only are you doing all of that, but you're also working a farm still. You might have a 50 to 200 acre farm and you're growing on 20 of that at a time. So it's like having a full-time job and making all of your clothes from scratch, which is quite a bit. Now, luckily, in the 18th century, most young girls have learned to spin. They've learned to sew. But most people are not weavers. Weaving is a 5 to 7 year apprentice trade, and it's not something that everybody knows how to do. So now the question is, are you going to learn how to do it? Are you going to teach one of the people that are enslaved on the farm how to do it? Are you going to find a weaver and take all of your yarn that you've spun to him? And if you're taking a lot of your time to spin the yarn, what's not getting done on the farm? So you're probably never going to make enough fabric to outfit the whole family. You're just going to make enough to patch up pre-existing garments until you're got to have enough to be able to go buy them again. So maybe once the war is over, but the war lasts at least 8 years. So imagine 8 years of having to patch up your own clothing until you're able to buy it again. So it's a lot of change for all of the people living on the farm, for the children, for the free and enslaved men and women and children on the farm, for the farmer or the enslaver, and also for the farmer's wife. So everybody's going to have to pitch in. They're all going to have a role of some sort in fabric production on the farm, whether it's spinning or carding. They talk about 3 and 4 year olds knowing how to card in the 18th century. So really everybody on the farm would be able to help out in that process.